This is the Conduit. All right, y'all. It is June 5, 2021. Boy, I tell you, we are in month 6 already. This year is, it is going so fast. It's incredible. It really is going by so terribly quickly. Woo, man. Well, I wanted to jump on here and talk to you about unemployment, housing, all kinds of things that I think are going to be important, that are going to impact people. And I don't think people are really still paying a whole lot of attention to. As you know, in the state of Washington, the moratorium on eviction is set to expire on June 30. So we are talking about 25 short days where landlords and homeowners, property management companies, and the like will be able to evict people for whatever the reason they deem that they need to evict folks. That time is coming up quickly. If you've been watching what's been happening across the country, many of the moratoriums have expired in the beginning, June 1. And so you will see evictions start to accelerate, I believe, exponentially, right? For folks that haven't been able to pay their rent, all of a sudden, they are going to be evicted. And again, I think, people really don't understand what the impact that is going to have on so many of our American citizens as they find themselves, one, their credit was destroyed. 2, their rental history has been destroyed. 3, they may or may not have a job. 4, if they're on unemployment, the unemployment kind of bump up, that extra $300 a week is going away in a lot of states. And, again, it's something that's not going to continue to go on forever anyway. And 4, when you're going to look for a new place, well, folks already want what? First, last, and deposit, right? And so now, you want first, last, and deposit. They may want, you need to make 3 times the rent. They're going to be looking at your background, your history, and it's going to be a renter's market or rentier's market. Rentee? Maybe it's rentee, right? But there are going to be so many people that need a place that the folks that are offering the places are going to be able to command top dollar and the best of credit and to show stability in employment. I believe things are going to get really, really difficult here in this country for a lot of people. And again, we know that there is a homeless epidemic that's been happening in this country before COVID hit. And you've seen, Venice Beach and San Francisco and many cities across America that are struggling with homeless issues, right? We have our own issues here in Kitsap County. The rescue mission or the county, purchased a building in Port Orchard, and they had an open meeting last week, about the purchase of that meeting, and people were pretty upset. And, the fact that this building was going to be there. But part of the reports were saying, hey, there were 200 homeless people in Port Orchard living in a tent city, right up the hill from downtown. I had no idea about that. That's a lot of people that were homeless living kind of in this tent city in Port Orchard. You've seen what it looks like in Seattle. It's bad. And so this is a crisis, right? And so you're looking at these folks that are already homeless. You're looking at the folks that, again, credit score, rental history, lack of a job, all these different factors that are going to find themselves evicted and no place to go. There's going to be more people living in their car, trying to live with friends, and it's going to be truly a bad situation. And while it's summertime now, winter is coming, as they say in Game of Thrones. So I think this is something to truly be concerned about. As I just don't think people in the government has really thought this through, and that impact is going to be horrific. I really believe that it's going to be horrific. So let's get into some information. Again, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as yada, yada, yada. All right. So this article here is by Sarah Ewald Weiss. I think Weiss. This is CBS News, and this is from June 4, 2021 at 7 p.m., so a few hours ago. And I'm not going to play the video, but I just want to read a little bit of this because this is truly important, right? President Joe Biden said America is on the move again Friday after the latest jobs report showed employers added 559,000 jobs in May, closer to what the economist anticipated after April's disappointing jobs report. While the president said he was extremely optimistic, he warned there will be bumps along the way and urged Americans to get vaccinated. Okay. Kind of a weird kind of transition there. He also said now is the time to seize on upward momentum. This comes as the president is working to get bipartisan agreement on infrastructure proponents say will boost employment. But talks have slowed as Republicans balk at the price of the proposed measure to pay for it. And in other news, Biden has actually revised his budget, and he's come down quite a bit. So we'll see what happens there. The unemployment rate fell to 5.8% in May, down from 6.1% in April, the Labor Department said. But employment last month was still down about 7.6 million jobs from pre-pandemic levels, okay? 7.6 million jobs in February 2020, and 9.3 million people remain unemployed, potentially able to work. Mr. Biden said the U.S. is the only major country where projections of economic growth are better now than they were before the pandemic. No other major economy in the world is growing as fast as ours. No other major economy is gaining jobs as quickly as ours. And none of this success is an accident. It isn't luck, Mr. Biden said, crediting the American people for getting vaccinated and the administration's efforts to kill the virus and boost the economy with the passage of the American Rescue Plan in March. The president touted the funds the U.S. is giving to small businesses to retain or hire more workers, and the funds the U.S. is giving to hard-hit restaurants to keep them afloat. Next month, most families with children will be receiving a tax credit every month. Mr. Biden also said this month, the U.S. economy added nearly 20,000 childcare jobs that weren't there last month, he said. Last month's increase in jobs comes after the previous month's jobs report, which showed the economy added roughly a quarter of the number economists had anticipated in April. Friday's report revised April's jobs numbers from 266,000 to 278,000 in a month, following the passage of the president's relief package. At the time, the president said the economy was improving despite the lackluster numbers. He argued that the economic recovery would be a marathon and used the moment to promote the passage of his more than $4 trillion proposed spending on the so-called American Jobs Plan and American Families Plan tackling infrastructure, families, and healthcare. He continued to push for those plans on Friday. Okay, so you can read the rest of that article there. I won't play that, or you can play the video. But you know what is important is if you did not know, there's a couple things that are left out in these numbers. Okay, so when they report on the unemployment numbers, these numbers are based on It's kind of the whole, right? But we know that in Black America, our unemployment numbers are higher than they are in the white community. And so while this looks good, where it's like, hey, unemployment's 5.8%. Hey, that sounds pretty good. That is not true in the Black community. And we know that we are harder hit. The saying is if white America catches a cold, then Black America gets the flu or pneumonia. And that is often true, right? We know that the pandemic has negatively impacted us more than other groups, right? We're several times more likely to die from it. We're working in, kind of frontline, restaurants, customer service, things like that. So we're more exposed, right? Income levels are a lot lower, and so we are impacted so much more than other communities. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So here is the Black unemployment rate. Okay. And this interactive chart compares the historic Black unemployment rate to those of whites and the Hispanic Latino population. Note the statistics for Asian unemployment are not included here in the Bureau of Labor Statistics, did not start including this measure until 2000, and does not provide a seasonal adjusted series as yet. The current is as of May 2021. So here you can see, if we kind of hover over the chart, Black is in the blue, orange is Hispanic, and then the gray is white. So we're back here in 1982. Let's go on up here. And as you can see, there was a time here shortly where Hispanics actually were more unemployed than Black America, which is typically not the case. I mean, if you look from 1975 on, Black people have always been more unemployed than other groups, right? And so if we go here all the way to, see if I can get my mouse to get there. This is right. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking here at May. So remember how they were talking about the unemployment rate was down at 5.8%, right? We get it back there, 9.1 for Black America, okay? 9.1. So we're talking about very close to double, very close to double. The other thing that this, and I'm sorry, I can't keep my mouse there. It's just very finicky there. But Black, 9.1, Hispanic, 7.3, and white, 5.1. Again, we're only 13% of the population, but 9% of us are unemployed. This also does not include those that just stopped looking for work, right? Like, man, there's just nothing out there. What's unfortunate is we are in this crossfire, if you will, right? So we're more impacted by unemployment. Many, and there's a lot of Republican governors, but this is, other states too. And again, this also can persist, right? They want to cut off that extra unemployment bump. And part of the argument is they're saying, hey, well, you know what? These businesses, they need to get back on track, but people aren't going to work because they'd rather just sit home on unemployment, right? And of course, what does that do? It demonizes, people for not working. Here's the truth. Most of these jobs, not family or livable wages, right? Very much slave wages. People having to work 2 or 3 jobs, right? Having to, cohabitate with other people just to try to scrape together enough just to try to keep a roof over your head, right? Many of these jobs, fast food, restaurant, things of that nature, right? Which again exposes you to COVID, right? There's not typically healthcare, retirement, things of that nature. I'm going to share, a video with you, which I think will illustrate that point. So Now you have restaurants and other companies that are saying, well, you know what? We're trying to hire these people. We have all these incentives. You need to cut these people off unemployment so they'll come back to work. But they're coming back to work into wages that don't pay their bills. They didn't pay them before. They're not paying them now, right? And we're not taking into account that, hey, look, however you feel as an American on the vaccine, maybe you feel like, you know what, hey, I don't feel safe with getting vaccinated, right? But if I have underlying health conditions, should I be forced to go and work on the front lines and put myself and my family at risk? And so we know the Black community is by far and large in these jobs. So again, that's what I mean about being in the middle. So it's a really bad situation to be in. Very bad situation to be in. And to illustrate this point of how there's this disconnect, and we listen to the mainstream media, we listen to, you know, folks tout these unemployment numbers and give us all these different stats. And, you know, when they're talking about the effects on America and what these numbers are, they're not talking about Black America, right? They're talking in general. They're typically talking about white America, our own situation. So let's go ahead and check in with the Hill. Again, fair use. This is breaking. Unemployment drops, could take another year to recover, right? And so again, they're talking about white America. They're not talking about Black America. They're not talking about low-income individuals. So just go ahead and listen to this. Okay.
There's some new reporting out as we're sort of mulling over the recovery and what shape it's taken in recent months as some of these lockdowns have ended. And there's new reporting that shows it's sort of acting as a double gut punch to millennials who got hit particularly hard by the 2008 recession and maybe never were able to fully climb out of that. They still are saddled with all of the student debt that they might not have been able to pay off yet. They still aren't able to afford property and home ownership. What is this doing to the millennial generation?
So again, she's talking about the millennial generation, right? Well, this isn't just the millennial generation. This is the Gen Xers, right? This is the baby boomers. I'm a Gen Xer. I still have student loans. You know, I'm not in a position to pay those student loans, right? So this is more than just millennials, right? Continue.
And if it takes another year to recover, as Jeff Stein is saying, these numbers, projecting them out in the future, it might. What is that going to do to millennials?
Oh, it's brutal, and for Zoomers too. And there is a ton of research, economic research, that shows that the longer you delay your career, your earning potential, that the exponential effects over your career are just unspeakable. If you start out right out of college at a nice salary of $40,000-$50,000.
All right, we're talking. He's saying unspeakable, right? Now he's talking about, well, if you graduate from college and you start off with 45,000, the average Black man in this country makes $45,000 a year. This isn't entry level, fresh out of college. I'm 21 years old. This is the average Black man. So I want you to listen to this in that vein, okay? In that vein,
$50,000, and you're getting benefits at a nice salary of
I'm going to rewind that a little
potential. That the exponential effects over your career are just unspeakable. If you start out right out of college at a nice salary of $40,000-$50,000, benefits, and you're starting to put money away in a 401k and build wealth, and you steadily rise from there. I mean, that's not a nice salary, but for a 22-year-old coming out.
See, that's not a nice salary, but for a 22-year-old coming out, right? And again, That's assuming all the stuff that he just said, the benefits, the retirement, right? That's not typically what we have. Again, the average black man in America makes $45,000 a year. And he's just like, I ain't shit, you know? They're not talking to us. They're not talking about us. They understand the impact, right?
From there, I mean, that's not a nice salary, but for a 22-year-old coming out, then 20 years down the road, you're here. If you don't start there until you're 25 or 26, you're way down here. 20.
If you don't start until you're 25, 26, you're way down here. Understand, the average black man, regardless of age, $45,000, right? He's saying the impact, if you spend 3 years down here, we're spending our lifetime down here. Y'all got to wake up.
20 years later.
Right.
And so to then 10 years later have another massive recession and economic crisis hit your life just exponentially damages you that much more.
And as bleak as
And we just went through the housing crisis of '08. Oh, I know, because I went through it and I was negatively impacted because I went through a divorce right after that. So they're telling you the negative impacts, right? So if you go through this, you may not recover. If you are hampered for 3 years, it's okay if you graduate from college and you get 45, 50 coming right out and you've got your benefits and your retirement, but you got to start now and keep on growing, you'll be okay. But for the millennials, for white America, as long as they come out of it in 3 years, that 45 to 50,000 goes to whatever it goes to, right? But for black America, that's the average. That is the average. That's why we make 16 cents on the dollar. We have 16 cents of the dollar. That's what our wealth is. So you had '08. Now you've got the pandemic, right? Now you've got this eviction moratorium. We know that these things negatively impact us more. We were dying at higher rates, right? It's taking out our patriarchs. It's taking out our matriarchs. It's taking out the breadwinners. So all these things are happening all at the same time. But what's being reported is, hey, unemployment's down to 5.8. Well, no, actually, it's almost double for black America. Oh, yeah, well, we've lost many of the breadwinners. Oh, yeah, the average, our cap average is 45,000. Black women's cap is like 41, somewhere in there. So they're talking about the 21, 22-year-old, talking about the 45, 46-year-old, 47-year-old, the 50-year-old.
as the numbers look, you have to remember that there are cultural implications under the surface of that, things like the marriage rate and the birth rate that are out of whack with what people say they want to be on some of those lifestyle decisions. And so just thinking about the numbers alone is painful enough, but then to think about sort of the downstream ramifications culturally when we're already alienated and isolated in new ways, it's bleak to think about, but hopefully there will be some sort of solution, but we'll have more rising for you after this.
So here they're saying that it's bleak, right? It's a crisis. It's such a horrible thing. Very difficult. Very difficult. Another article from CBS News. Workers in 25 states brace for early unemployment shutoff. I have 88 cents in my bank account. Again, you can either play the video, just kind of read just a snippet here. Mohammed Ifzal, 42, lost his job as a medical lab technician a few months before the pandemic. And when the crisis shuttered the economy, it was too difficult to find work because medical procedures slowed down. The Irving, Texas resident said he is now dealing with another unexpected shock, an early end to enhanced unemployment benefits in his state. I was so depressed, Ifzal said, who will lose all of his benefits on June 26. That's when Texas is terminating several programs created by Congress to help millions of workers who lost their jobs due to the pandemic. We didn't expect to find this kind of news. It was expected to go through September 4th. Texas is one of 25 states, half, all with Republican governors that have opted to curtail enhanced unemployment benefits 2 months early, citing difficulties being reported by some employers to find workers. We talk about meritocracy, right? And exceptionalism. We talk about capitalism, right? You are not entitled to be a business owner. You are not entitled to survive, right? You sell your burgers, and if people don't want your burgers for whatever reason, you don't have a burger business. But, oh, hey, I need workers. I got to keep my business open. I don't deserve to fail. So force these people off unemployment and make them come back to work for me. Especially when I'm not paying a livable wage for them to take care of themselves and their family. So somehow it's always the lowest of us that gets the blame. There are a lot of companies that are doing well. All with Republican governors that have opted to curtail enhanced employment benefits 2 months early, citing difficulties being reported by some employers in finding workers. Maybe you shouldn't be in business. Maybe you need to do something different. But to cut off the support for so many people just in the hopes that they're going to be forced to take a job that isn't going to take care of their needs anyway. And again, these stories, these issues, as they affect white America, Black America is being affected far more severely. And this isn't just going to be Republican states. Eventually, the Democratic states, too, will be allowing those extended unemployment benefits to expire. Critics of the 25 states that are curtailing jobless aid point to data demonstrating that the labor market is improving. Well, I just talked about that, right? In May, the nation's jobless rate fell to its lowest since the pandemic erupted in March of 2020, declining to 5.8%, the Labor Department said on Friday. Employers added a solid 559,000 jobs last month. So which one is it? And the unemployment is falling down to the lowest number since the pandemic began, but you don't have workers? See, something ain't jiving there. But we're going to cut this off. Mm. Still, challenges remain. In some cases, restaurant workers have shifted to other industries, but some hospitality industry workers remain sidelined because of childcare issues or health concerns. Right. So there's still childcare issues, right? Which is stupid expensive. It almost is more beneficial from a financial standpoint for people to not work because the childcare costs so much that based on their skill set and what they can earn per hour, they're not going to, they would just be working to get their kid into childcare and that's it. But again, some industry workers remain sidelined because of childcare. So it's not that I'm being lazy. I don't have anywhere for my child to go. But you just cut off my extra $300 a week from me and my child. Or health concerns. So again, COVID could kill me. COVID could kill my grandmother or my grandfather or my child that has some health issues. But you're going to cut off the unemployment and force me into a position where I have to put my family at risk and potentially die. But unemployment's down pre-pandemic levels. 4 million Americans to lose benefits. About 1 in 4 U.S. workers now on unemployment will lose their benefits early through the actions of these 25 states, according to Andy Stetner, a labor expert at the left-leaning Century Foundation. That amounts to about 4 million workers facing an end to all or most of their jobless aid as soon as June 12th, a week from today. In Ifzal's case, he will lose all of his unemployment assistance because he's on Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program, which was created last year to provide extra weeks of benefits after regular state jobless aid comes to an end. Most states only provide 26 weeks of benefits. Once the PEUC program ends in Texas on June 26, Ifzal won't qualify for additional jobless aid. Ifzal said it's still hard to find work in his field and that landing a lower paid job in the industry unrelated to experience won't help him in the long run. Of course not. I would tell my students all the time, right? When I started at the college, as I told you before, I started as an advisor. And so I would see and advise students on their academic plans and help them build their schedules and whatnot. And they would come back, each quarter and make sure they're on track or change the track or do whatever. And many students would leave, right? And they say, well, I gotta earn money. Right now, I need to pay rent. I need to do this. I need to do that. I want to go to school, but I've got to earn money. So I've got to go and do that. And I try to tell them and express upon them, the importance of trying to find a way to stay the path, right? The opportunity cost, applying for grants and scholarships. If you're in a situation where you can do it and it makes sense for you, taking out loans, right? And the reason being is what would happen is the student leaves and they go to work. And oftentimes, again, this is a small community. So you see him at Jack in the Box. You see him at Rent-A-Center. You see him at the grocery store, right? And they're working their hours. And many of these employers are working them right under the benefit threshold so they don't have to give them benefits. So they're out over here. And the student that was able to stay in Well, they do their freshman year, they do their sophomore year, they transfer to their, and if it's vocational, they go into the workforce, right? So let's just even do a 2-year vocational. And they start working in their field, entry level, mid level, whatever. They worked for a year, they worked for 2 years. What I would start to see is in that second, third, and fourth year, I would see the student that took the off ramp to go and take the job coming back and saying, hey, this, I'm not making it. I got to go to school and get, an education so that I can make more money to take care of my family. And what they've done is they've put their progress on hold for 2+ years, where they just could have found a way to hang on during that. You know what I'm saying? They can't make that up. That's what this looks like. That's what this is. So yeah, if so, can take a lower paying job, but now you're trapped. How do you get back to where you're supposed to be? Well, he's not in school, right? He's in this lower paying job, which typically, lower paying jobs, you're working harder, you're more exhausted, there's more requirements on you. But shouldn't he be entitled? He trained, he went to school, he got to this point. If the business owner is entitled to force people off unemployment so they can make them come to work for them and pay them, shouldn't the person that went to college and worked in a certain field be made whole? So who is it good for? At a high percentage, everyone can blame Amazon or Walmart or the big organizations and say, well, these guys destroy mom and pops, and they they're too big to fail, right? The banks. So that's a thing. Too big to fail. Sure, we all remember that, right? But the average citizen isn't. And then next, who's too big to fail? The small businesses. And it's all at the expense of the worker who's here at the bottom, right? And so when we're looking at perspective, I think that's missed a lot. So yeah, Bezos wants to go to Mars. Who's the other one? They've got so much money. They've got to do off-world things in order to find ways to spend it. So for most of us, we have no idea what that even means. Isn't one of them building a $50 million boat or something like that? A yacht, a water mansion, or what is it? 500 million? I think it's a $500 million yacht. So we can't even fathom that, right? It's their play money, their throwaway money. Well, that's how it looks for many Americans to the business owner who has the second home, who has the vacation property, who can take a vacation, that has a speedboat or a Sea-Doo. Put their kids in all kinds of extracurricular activities. To them, you're like Bezos. You're like Zuckerberg. It's how far apart it is, right? And they're looking at the system saying, hey, we need to cut you off your unemployment. You need to go back to work because those business owners are suffering and they need you to go back to work. even though it's probably not a livable wage. And that's tough because, hey, I am a business owner and it is hard. But I don't get the luxury of I'm too big to fail. I need to be bailed out, propped up. You guys got to understand what's happening. So, in Ifzal's case, he will lose all of his unemployment assistance because he's on the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program. Still hard for him to find work in his field, and landing that lower paid job in the industry unrelated to his experience won't help him in the long run. He started a petition to ask Texas Governor Greg Abbott to reconsider his decision to end unemployment. He received more than 9,000 signatures and comments, many from people who can't find jobs in their field, including the oil and gas industry, which lost more than 100,000 jobs. I've worked 11 to 12 years in my field, and it doesn't make any sense to find a job at McDonald's. He has to find a job at McDonald's. The business owner doesn't have to close their business and go and get a job at McDonald's. Meritocracy, good for the goose, good for the gander. 88 cents in my bank account. Some of those who will lose their benefits in a matter of days or weeks told CBS Money Watch they want their governors and others to know they aren't lazy. Some have young children that have been in a remote school and require supervision, making it harder to take a job outside the home. Others have health issues. Some are over 60 and said they believe they are having trouble finding work because of the unspoken bias against older job candidates. Well, again, what happens when you have a surplus? Just what I was saying about the housing, right? So now people who have been impacted because of no fault of their own, freaking hate that phrase, by the way. It's damn sure a dog whistle. But let's use it. So those who have been harmed, no fault of their own, that have seen their credit rating be destroyed, to see their rental history be destroyed, to see their jobs, like this gentleman here, go away. Well, now I get to hire the cream of the crop. And we hear stories about it all the time. Oh, this person has a bachelor's degree or a master's degree and they're a barista at Starbucks. That was happening pre-pandemic. Others noted that while restaurants are hiring, other industries remain weakened because of the impact of COVID. Jihan Johnston, a single mom in Atlanta, has a master's degree in education. We have the same degree. But the pandemic hit her sector hard. Last year, jobs in the public K through 12 education fell by 8%. The impact might be even worse than suggested since many schools have held off hiring new staff amid remote schooling and other changes, the Brookings Institution noted. I've applied to over 2,000 jobs in the last year. I haven't heard back from anyone, said Johnston, who has a 12-year-old son. I had to move out of my house. I'm living with my mother. I have 88 cents in my bank account. So being a business owner all of a sudden entitles you to force regular Americans off of unemployment because you need them to come and work for you so that you can pay your slave wages, right? You're entitled to that. Would it track then that those that invested in themselves as their business, they went to college as this person did, right? Get your education. Education is the great equalizer. You get your education, they can't take it from you, right? They don't want it. Your degree don't mean anything. I've got a master's degree in education. I've got 88 cents in my bank account. They're not hiring right now. Johnson said she applied for work in the education, technology, and customer service fields, but believes her resume may make her overqualified for some jobs. She also worries about the impact of bias, given that she's Black and the fact that she's been out of work since before the pandemic. And these aren't unrealistic fears. She applied for over 2,000 jobs. If you work 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 2 weeks off for vacation, you work 2,080 hours in a year. She's almost applied a job an hour for an entire year. From a mental health standpoint, how destructive is that? How demoralizing. And again, yeah, you could tell her, well, she needs to go to McDonald's. Pull herself up from her bootstraps. She should be willing to do anything she can to make ends meet for her and her kid. When, okay, she had a master's degree in education, she's in Atlanta, so she's probably making $70,000 or $80,000 a year. So now she's supposed to make $25,000 to $35,000 a year at McDonald's. But the business owner, no, we need to cut people off their unemployment because my business can't fail. So there are people that are looking at you like you are the Jeff Bezos. So very selfish and destructive. And destructive. I'm going to leave the rest of this article here for you to read. What I think is important to note is the fact that I don't think we're looking and seeing where there may be cause and effect issues that are happening in our communities, right? We are watching that, violence is up all across the country. We are watching people assault other people, on the street, just random acts of violence. I mean, random acts of violence. We're seeing our mass murders. We're watching hits. We're watching assassinations. We're watching children shooting at police. We're seeing lots of road rage. We're hearing more stories of women shooting people. And then our answer is to say, hey, You know what? California just voted to say, hey, the assault on or the ban on assault rifles was unconstitutional in California. Go on and get your assault rifles. Texas wants to remove and make it so you can go ahead and buy a gun. You don't need to take a class. Go ahead. It's a free for all. Look at how people are acting. And so instead of not doing anything, which is typically what happens from a political standpoint, your idea is to relax the laws and regulations and give people easier access to guns, to unban weapons when we're watching this escalation in violence. And on the one hand, I get it. Hey, man, if it's going to be an S show out here, then yeah, I need the government to make it as easy as possible for me to carry and bear firearms so I can protect myself and my family. Because these people out here are crazy. Here's the problem. In Black America, the game is you get a felony. We're going to overcharge you. We're going to make you plead, right? Because again, as I said in another podcast, if you don't plead, they're going to nail your ass to the wall. So you're going to plead to this felony. You can't possess a firearm. The country is crazy. Violence is happening everywhere. Black couple walks out their front door, murdered. Walking on the sidewalk, murdered. But you can't bear arms because now you're a convicted felon. And we know it disproportionately affects Black America more than anyone else, and especially our Black men, our warrior class. We're watching the Proud Boys, the Boogaloo Boys, and all these militias. We're showing someone some YouTube videos on their training. That looks like precision military of these militias on Facebook. So here they have this huge arsenal of weapons. All of this training. And they know that most Black America don't have a right to bear arms because it was stripped from them. Have been told, especially through the church, you don't need a gun. So now it's just a turkey shoot. I thought there was something interesting. I was thinking about it. We know it was the 100-year anniversary of Tulsa. And, I talked about that on Monday, Sunday and Monday. And what's interesting is, if you remember, the great pandemic of 1918, 1919, that happened. And Tulsa happened 2 years after that. Do you remember how many millions of people died during that pandemic? Think about that. You're dying by the millions. And in less than 2 years, racial hate makes you want to go and destroy Black people in the hundreds. You lost loved ones, family members. It's impacted your business and your survival. It's a dangerous time, folks. You need to protect yourself. If you have your Second Amendment rights, then you need to protect yourself. Take a class. Learn proper weapon safety. Take a self-defense class. Make sure that you have situational awareness. Understand that it's not worth it and that you can be minding your business and not even doing anything and trigger someone. And so your first thought may be to lash out because you're angry too. Remember, you only have 88 cents in your bank account and you have a degree and you've done everything that you can. You did everything right and no fault of your own, and still you're in this situation. But we have January 6th. And we have ex-generals saying that there needs to be a coup. We're not even ready. Stereotypically, it's NBA playoffs and I'm 420 friendly. Or Jesus take the wheel. I hope I'm wrong, but we know how bad it is for us. The stats bear themselves out, right? Not making it up. Here's the stats. 1975, unemployment double white America. 82, 83, 20%, double, 20%, 1 in 5 unemployed, work eligible people, right? Every single year, black unemployment higher, right? On average, almost double. Doesn't change. They're already talking about the efficacy of the vaccine, needing a booster, watching it mutate. It's already June. We'll be going back into the fall and back into the winter here in no time. And what do you think is going to happen if this thing starts spreading again? Do you think they're going to shut down the economy? No, they're probably not going to do that. So now you're going to have to take the risk. And again, it's not just Black America that's suffering, right? It's a lot of class issues here. People are angry, desperate. This is not going to be good. Even more people are going to lose their homes. They're going to lose their houses. And there's not going to be any recourse for them. They're not going to have first, last, and deposit. Oh, average rent for, a couple and a kid. Hell, the average rent for one person by themselves, like $1,100. I think in Kitsap County, it's $1,400 for, I can't remember what it was, like a 2-bedroom. So you want first, last, and deposit. Deposit is the same amount as the rent. You want $4,200 plus the price for me to move. And you want my rental history to be intact. You want my credit history to be intact. Oh, I just went through a pandemic. You couldn't pay your bills because the tenant you had before couldn't pay on time. But now I need to be. It's going to get bad. It's going to get bad. All right. To that end, as you know, my organization, as well as many others, are participating in the ERAP and the Kappa program. Okay. And that is the rental assistance program. Again, we are providing free information, free transportation if you need a ride to take care of your housing or vaccine needs. Give us a call, 360-373-3000. As I told you before, last year they gave out $3.1 million that came into Kitsap County, and everyone did not get their share. And what's unfortunate is we are still suffering the same effects. And it's nationwide. It's nationwide. So let me see if I can enlarge this so I can actually read it. The Kappa Program is another program where they can pay up to 1 month of back rent and potentially 2 months into the future of your rent, right? Which can help you keep your relationship with your landlord good and have them make sure that they get paid. Please give a call. The moratorium is about to end. There are not enough seats when the music stops. Okay. Out of all the funding slots that are available, most organizations have not used, I believe, half of them as I kind of go over this. Out of the organizations that are processing the program to help people, one organization has 50% of their funding slots still available. Another one has 92%. Another one has 35%. Another has 92%. Another has 53%. Another has 98%. Another has 83%. Another has 65%. And another one has 66%. So for the total, 1,389 initial slots are available. And out of that, 66% of those are still available to provide housing assistance, rental assistance to people in this county. More than half. And if you've been watching the news, this has been an issue nationwide. Billions. I think it was 50 million. Scores of millions. Easiest way for me to say it. Have been put into this rescue plan to help people to stay in their homes. But there have been lots of different issues on people not getting the money. And I can tell you 2 really tragic stories, some worse than others, but still bad, right here in this county. Okay. One person was told, hey, the program that is typically available and being advertised, well, right now, that funding is put on hold until the old funding is spent. Well, the old funding can't do what the new funding can do. Okay. So that kind of causes a hiccup, right? And we can't do this for you. Another one, which is we've seen a lot. I'm eligible. I fit the parameters, but the landlord doesn't want to take it. They don't want to be on the hook. Or they're not getting the entire amount of money, but they've got to forgive the rest of the debt. So they don't take it. So here's the money, but because it's only paying up to a certain amount, they're not going to accept it. Because the strings that are attached isn't a good match for the landlord or the homeowner, they're not going to do it. So now that tenant could have stayed in their place, but nope. As soon as that moratorium's over, you're out of here. We've had folks that are eligible for the program and are still kind of like, I don't know if I really want to do it or not. This money is not going to be here forever. You are American citizens, and these folks want to try to help you. Please take the help. Please take the help. Please give us a call, 360-373-3000. See if we can help you, help someone you know, explain to you how the program works. Maybe you don't need it now, but maybe you might need it next month or the month after. When this moratorium is over, it's going to get bad. And, quite frankly, we've seen an exodus out of California into places like Texas, right? Because of the homeless issues and the taxes and everything else. Well, you might see an influx of people coming to places like Washington because, well, the social services are some of the best in the state or best in the country. And so people are going to come here, or they may come here. But again, we already have a homeless epidemic here. You've seen Seattle. You've seen Port Orchard. You've seen the other side of Walmart. You've seen downtown Bremerton. You don't see the ones sleeping in their car. You don't see the ones that are couch surfing. And you don't see the ones that are hanging on by a thread. You don't see the ones that are literally only in their place because it's not lawful to kick them out. And as soon as it is, where are they going to go and what are they going to do? And if we catch another hit, Please, folks, give us a call. Give KCR a call. Foundation for Homeless and Poverty Management. Gather together, grow together. Hope 360 House of Refuge. There are a few hotels that are out there. Housing Solutions Center, Kitsap Immigration Assistance Center, Mount Zion, returning clients to KCR, Surviving Change. Any of these organizations can help you with this. Please call one of these organizations, have a conversation with them. If you're the landlord, you're the homeowner, give them a call, see what they can do for your tenant that's not paying your rent. We had a conversation with some tenants that were behind on their rent, behind on their rent. And the apartment complex is just waiting for the moratorium to end to evict them. And the apartment complex was telling them about this program and they won't use the program. This is more than one household. That this is a true story. What is their option going to be when they're evicted at the end of the month? Where are they and their kids going? Please, folks, give us a call. Give one of the agencies a call. See if there's anything that can be done. Find out how the program works. Again, ask for a friend, ask for a family member. Even if you don't think that they would be eligible, or if it's applicable to them now, it may be applicable to them later. And again, the United States can't keep printing money. Eventually, the spigot is going to cut off. They're already cutting off unemployment. And if people aren't using the money, shouldn't they ask for it back? Y'all was saying you don't need it, so send it back. We can go and use that on infrastructure or something else. Please take advantage. It's so tough because sometimes you're like trying to convince people to help themselves. And I know it's bad when the landlord doesn't want the funds because they're not going to be made whole. And I wish they could do something for situations like that so they could keep that relationship going with that person. Because again, the landlord has a mortgage to pay, right? They've got bills to pay too. Guys, get ready. Prepare yourself. You see what's happening out here in the United States. The stories are crazy. The violence on each other, it's crazy. And to think, a lot of your jobs aren't coming back. Just read a story, well, 2 stories of people that were trained, had degrees, education experience, and their jobs are gone and they can't find work in their field. In the case with the master's of education, she can't even sniff anything close to what she was making, but still has the child care issues and everything else. Please. Give us a call. Do some investigation. Let us answer some questions for you. Take care of yourself, folks. Gather together, grow together. 360-373-3000. Transportation is free for the vaccine or for the housing programs. Call today. Let us see if we can help you. $3.1 million came into Kitsap County at the end of last year. Even more is available. Only 66% of the slots allocated have been used out of 1,389. It's more than half. 889 slots. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of families. It's a lot of children. All right. Be good to each other. I'm Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. I will see you